Welcome to Best Wellness Interviews, where I interview successful people who share their stories about their health and well-being and the strategies they use in their life. I'm Kristine Best and I'm your host, and today I have John Solleder with me. Welcome to my show, John. It's excellent that you're here. I'm so pleased to be interviewing you.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. Can't wait to get into talking about health, wellness, and all the important things in life that we all hold so dear.
Absolutely, and everybody needs it. And I'm sure people are going to get something out of this interview because I know you've got some things to share that will help people. So, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing in life at the moment?
Well, I very I'm a 64-year-old guy. I've been an author. I've written a number of books. Here's a couple of them. Always on my desk. Leaving Nothing to Chance, Moving Up. This was a whole series of books. I've written books on finance. I recently was featured on Top Doctor magazine, which I was only the second layman after Bobby Kennedy to be
That's very-
featured on Top Doctor, which and that talked about one of my health regimens with glutathione, which is something that I've been using, taking, and helping to promote for the last 29 years, believe it or not. Seems like yesterday, but 29 years goes by fast when you're having fun. But health is a passion of mine. It wasn't always, but it became a passion of mine at a fairly young age, at about the age of 20. Matter of fact, my 20th birthday, I had my last alcoholic drink. I looked at my dad at that point, who had been a alcoholic. He was dry at that point, thank God, but he was still smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day and living on a pretty standard American diet known as SAD. And I said, I don't want that to be me. I don't want that to be me. I want a different outcome. And my dad passed away at a young age, painfully. And I said, I don't want that to be me. So I went the other way. I decided to get into nutrition, vitamins, herbs, started to study, started to read, and it just became a passion of mine. It became a business. I've been able to make a living in marketing different types of things. I've marketed everything over the years from herbs. I helped to bring creatine to the market here in North America. I worked with Dr. Nikolai Volkov, who was did a lot of research at the Moscow Sports Institute on it. After that, I've worked with glutathione with some people, doctors from McGill University in Montreal, Canada. So I've always been kind of cutting edge. And even though I'm not in the medical field, I've always been around the people who are very cutting edge in their thinking. So that's a little bit about me. I'm still a health nut. I still work out every single day. I'll tell you a little bit about my diet as we get into the program.
Sure. Well, that answers my question as to how come you got into what you're doing. But how did you get into the circle of these influential people where, you could actually promote what you do and get it out to the masses?
Well, it's funny because I was very lucky. I was always very skilled speaking, even at a young age. And I got involved in the health nutrition business by accident. I wrestled a little bit in college. I wrestled a lot in high school. And guy that I wrestled with, he was much smaller than me, but he was a real good wrestler. And he introduced me to a business that was selling herbal products. This was back in 1983. And I was looking for something because I was looking for my first real job, so to speak. I was graduating college. And a couple of things happened, Christine, that was real interesting. He introduced me to that business in April 1983. May 1983, I graduated college. And then President Reagan was our commencement speaker. And he said, to be successful in life, find a mentor. Find somebody who can teach you a business that you're interested in. And even though I was still looking for a traditional job, I made about $800 in that business that very first month, just part time, just kind of playing around selling some products. So I said, well, maybe I found what I'm looking for. Who knows? And 30 days later, I was up in Hartford, Connecticut, and I heard the guy giving the meeting say that for things to change, you have to change, and for things to get better, you have to get better. And I was like, wow, I never heard that kind of language before. I always thought you were either born rich or you were born poor. You were born with health, with good health or bad health. I didn't know that we had such a role in our self-development. And I became a self-development junkie. I started to go to the public library and study everything I could on health, on nutrition, on self-development, on public speaking, all the different things that were elements of businesses that I developed. And I wound up developing 4 businesses over the last 40 years, and 3 of which are still in business and doing well as a result of that. But how I got around the doctors was because I was always a good marketer. Doctors are lousy marketers for the most part. So you had these
Right.
brilliant minds and they'd make a product and they go, okay, I got this great product. How do I sell it?
Right.
How do I monetize it? Because a lot of times they're in debt, either personal debt or business debt, and they need somebody like me that comes along and says, well, wait a minute, I'll take your story and I'll create a hook for the story.
Yep.
This is what I did with glutathione. Nobody knew what glutathione was 29 years ago. I'll create a hook. So I did a sales letter. I wrote a sales letter about glutathione. And we mailed out a couple thousand of them, and one thing led to another. And then I developed a cassette tape interviewing the doctors about this thing called glutathione. And let me tell you, Kristine, it was so bad in those days. And today, people like yourself certainly know glutathione, and healthy people do. But we used to actually explain to people, glue the tie on, because nobody could even say it.
Say it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, let me come up with simple stuff so they can remember it. So that's kind of been my forte is sales and marketing. And what's attracted me, I guess, to the doctors and attracted them to me was that this commonality of trying to be healthy and live a healthy life. And then when they come up and many of these people spend decades of their lives studying, one specific area of science that they get really good at. And as a result of that, I've had a kind of a partnership with researchers over the years, and help to bring their products to market. And then sometimes you take these brilliant people. I mean, some of these people, they like. I'll give you one fast example. Dr. Wolf Droga was a professor over in Heidelberg, actually ran part of the German National Cancer Program for many years. Guy was brilliant. 280 plus papers, peer reviewed, he wrote in his career. Guy was
It's pretty
only
amazing.
spoke, by the way, when I met him, he only spoke German. He moved to Canada and within 30 days learned English. And he wasn't young, he was in his 60s at the time. But so you take somebody like that, that's that brilliant, and he was doing a medical seminar with some doctors about this glutathione product that he was working with, that he had done some research on. And I said, Wolf, I said, for the doctors, the multisyllabic words, those 20-letter words that the doctors throw around, right, very easily.
Yeah.
The truck driver, the school teacher in the audience, they're not going to get that. Matter of fact, they'll probably walk out because they'll be bored, or they'll take a nap, so you got to bring that down. So I helped
That's
him
right.
craft an explanation that a layman would understand.
Yes.
So that's something that I've done. And I've had to do that in the herbal realm. Okay. I worked with Dr. Albert Leung, who did the Phytomed system for the National Institute of Health, which is the herbal database to this day. Same thing. It's like, look, you're talking at this level. There's 5 people in the audience that are going to listen to you. But if you bring it down to this level and there's 1,000 people in the audience, about 500 are going to listen. The other 500 are going to be on their phone and goofing off. But at least you're going to get the majority of the audience. And if you have to monetize that product, okay, whether they own the product or they're working for a company that's marketing their research, it's got to make sense to people, or they're not going to buy it. Plain and simple. So, so that's something that I've done for many
They
years.
have to understand it. That's right.
Yeah. And if they don't understand it, I mean, look, we're all consumers at the end of the day. If I don't understand something, you're not getting my hard-earned money. Make
Yeah.
it so
Well,
I understand why I should take it, and I'll try it at least.
yeah. What's in it for me, basically?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, would you like to explain some of the health benefits of glutathione to the audience, please?
Now, well, glutathione is the master antioxidant. It's the antioxidant of antioxidant. If you're taking other things, okay, great. It's going to help them to work better. People say to me all the time, well, I take this line of vitamins or this line of herbs. All that getting your glutathione levels up is going to do is make those things more effective. So, of course, continue to take what you're taking. but make it work better. Okay. And the glutathione is also going to work as a detox. Okay. For a couple of different areas. Your liver, really, really important thing to detox, obviously. The
Yes.
lung. Okay. Like, for example, I've had a lot of ex-smokers that have gotten on my glutathione product through the years. Okay. And sometimes other people's glutathione. And they're like, I'm finding that stuff's coming up. Well, that's good. You don't want that stuff in your body. You want to get
No.
rid of that stuff, tars, nicotines, different other things that have been encapsulated in the lungs.
Well, the tar actually incapacitates the little cilia that beat the stuff out. So if they're stuck and glued, they can't work.
Exactly, exactly. And then the other area people notice too is, believe it or not, the whites of your eyes. You may actually find that your eyesight either improves in some cases, okay, or it may slow it down. Like, for example, I do wear reading glasses. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I wear reading glasses. I'll be 65 this year. Okay, but when I look at my sisters, for example, who one takes my product. She's like me. She has reading glasses. She's 71. My other one's 76. She won't take anything and she can't see 2 feet in front of her. Now, what's the commonality? Okay, the commonality is that we've got the same, the same parents. Okay, but two of us embrace nutrition, one of us didn't.
And two of you see better and the other one doesn't, right?
Exactly. When I go to the eye doctor every December, so I'm coming up on my annual visit. And the last 2 years, the doctor said you don't need stronger glasses. Well, so save me money in essence too, because I didn't need new glasses. So, but those are things you'll notice with glutathione. And the other thing you're going to notice, frankly, is you're going to feel better.
Yeah,
And if you feel
right.
better, what are you going to do? See, this is something too that I learned many years ago. You want to go with people where they are. You want to meet people where they are when it comes to things. If you go into somebody that's eating, 3 steaks a day and smoking 4 packs of cigarettes and drinking a 6 pack of beer,
They're heading
okay,
for trouble.
okay, and you tell them all of a sudden tomorrow they should go, vegan, not going to happen.
No, it's not going to
Conversely,
happen.
if you take an ill person, you take a person who's bedridden, for example, they've had something happen to them where they've been bedridden.
Hmm.
The first step is not let's go try to run the marathon. The first step is okay, let's get you to a walker where at least you can move a little bit. And then
Yes.
from the walker, maybe let's get you to the next level where maybe you can go with a cane. Maybe you can actually go outside of your house, for example. Maybe you can move around a little more. The person on the cane, because maybe they've had surgery of some sort. Okay, let's get them from the cane to the next level, which is what? Being able to take a walk. Okay, being able to stand on their own 2 feet, for example, confidently that they're not going to fall over, right? So there's
Mm.
baby steps that I find with people that you can't bang them over the head and say, if you don't do all of this tomorrow, you're going to have an adverse outcome. You got to meet them where they are, And I'm
Yeah.
I'm working with somebody right now, for example, at my gym, and this person hasn't worked out in years. It's a woman. She had 3 kids, just
Hmm.
didn't want to work out. Now all of a sudden she said, "Hey, would you meet me at the gym?" I said, "How often?" She said, "Once a week." Okay. You tell me when you want to come and I'll be there. Okay. And I'm not going to tell her to do anything. I just want to see her show up because 90% of getting better and improving health is
Is
showing up,
showing up. In
So
fact, I read that this morning somewhere in something else. It's really funny, but that's true. Yeah, if you show up, you're halfway there, or more than halfway there.
exactly. Now if she comes and you see this every New Year's, right? We're coming up to New Year's. And you see this, any gym anywhere in the world, I'm sure in Australia, no different than the US, right? You go to the gym on January 2nd and you got to park your car 3 blocks away
Mhm.
because everybody's at the gym.
Yeah.
By Valentine's Day, you're parking in front of you park wherever you want, right? Plenty of spots in front of and it's an old joke with people who own gyms or personal trainers. When you talk to them, they see it every year. They see this multitude of people.
Yeah.
I'll give you another fast example. So last year, there's a guy on the treadmill next to me one morning, and he's killing himself. Very, very heavy man, and about 20 years younger than me. And I said, "Hey, buddy, you need to slow down." And he's like, "Why?" I said, "You're trying to do it all in one day." I said, "If you try to do it all in one day, you're not going to. Number one, you're not going to come tomorrow because you're going to hurt too badly. Number
That's right.
two, you're probably not going to last. I said, and I had nothing to do with this guy. I don't even know his name, but I
He'll
was
end
trying
up
to,
with an injury or
yeah,
something.
exactly. I told him, I said, you got to take baby steps. You obviously haven't been working out.
Yeah.
Okay. It's great that you're here, but you're trying to make up for maybe 5-10 years that you didn't train overnight. You're going to hurt yourself. And after about a month, I didn't see the fella again, and I don't know, maybe he's in great shape right now. I hope he is, but at the end of the day, realistically, he's probably not.
Oh, that's right.
So baby steps,
Burnout.
and
They
I
burn
tell
out.
people about with everything, and so my nutrition. What happened with me is because I've always, judo, jujitsu, wrestling, sambo were the things that I always was involved with athletically when I was younger.
Hmm.
And then my hips started wearing out, just wear and tear. So as I got older, I started, lifting more weights, and I got more involved with powerlifting and things like that. But my diet up until 8 years ago was basically the standard American diet,
Right.
even though I always took supplements. But I never worried about the other side of stuff. I ate whatever I thought I wanted to eat, which was a ton of meat. Okay, I ate a ton of meat. I worked out all the time. I ate a ton of meat. No. So what happened was I wound up. I was 80 pounds heavier than I am now. That's number one. Number two, all those years of sports started to catch up with my body in terms of inflammation. So
Right.
even though I was taking glutathione every single day, which does help with inflammation, I was hurting terribly every single day. So I said, you know what? I was out. This is funny. You'll appreciate this story. My son was playing hockey still. He was a good hockey player, and he was at hockey practice. And there was a hamburger place in the front of well, he was in a rink, and then there was this hamburger place in front of it. So I was eating a cheeseburger on a Friday night, thinking this is probably not good for a 50-plus-year-old guy for my arteries, but it really tastes good.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy it. But tomorrow, I'm going to go one day. I'm going to go one day, no meat. I'll eat spaghetti, I still didn't make the connection between meat and fish. It was like, I'll eat some fish, I'll eat something. So anyway, I ate that day. It was a Saturday. And I woke up Sunday morning to go to church, and I felt really good. And I thought, the only thing I did yesterday was I didn't eat any meat. Okay. Maybe I'll go 2 days. And then all of a sudden, maybe I'll go a week. And then weird things happen. There's that old expression, Kristine, of when the student is ready, the teacher arrives.
Yeah.
And
That's a wise saying.
I'm at the gym, and I'm watching, and I'm on the treadmill, and I'm a little bit, and I'm watching TV, and they have the words because you can't hear the TV, but they got the words of what's going on. And these three guys come on this talk show, and they show this picture, and they're all obese. And then they come through, and they sit down with the talk show host, and they're all in great shape. And she starts to interview them. And during the course of the now I'm watching because I'm saying, okay, that needs to be me. I need to get this weight off because I've been an athlete and I've always been into my health, but I'm too fat, quite honestly. I mean, you gotta be honest with yourself, right? And I'm watching, and the one guy mentions a documentary called Forks Over Knives. And I never heard of this before. So I came home, I said to my wife, we need to find this documentary on Netflix called Forks Over Knives. And that night we watched it. And I never heard of any of these people before, like Dr. Colin Campbell or Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn or Dr. Dean Ornish. Never heard of any of these people before. But it was so compelling that I said, now I'm still eating. Now, I'm still not on meat. I'm eating everything else, but I'm not eating meat right now. I'm going, this is funny. The timing of this. So all of a sudden I said, you know what? I'm going to stay vegetarian because I feel good. That was 8 years ago.
Okay.
2 years ago, I decided to go one step further. And this is what I mean about incremental steps for your listeners that are saying, hey, maybe I'm in bad health right now. Maybe I haven't worked out. Maybe my diet's bad. Go with baby steps. Don't go, if you go radical, you're not going to stick with whatever it is.
That's true.
You're just not going to do it. You'll do it for a week, you'll do it for a day, maybe you even do it for a month or two, but all of a sudden you're going to lose your motivation. So for
That's
me, it
true.
was baby steps. It was off to me, and then I still ate fish for a while. Then I went off to fish, And then all of a sudden, I really adopted a vegetarian lifestyle, but I was a junk vegetarian. I was eating a lot of burgers and things. These different alternative burgers are not meat, but they're God knows what, some of them.
Yeah.
And I met a guy from Costa Rica. He's actually from Argentina originally, but I met a guy from Costa Rica named Fran Turk on the internet. I was in a chat room about health, and I meet this guy, and he says, "Hey, I'm starting a thing for veganism on January 1st." And it was like, I forget I was like $27 to join. I was like, you know what? I spend $27. If I learn a little something that I don't know, great. And if I don't, it's $27. I'm not going to worry about it. And
Sure.
so January 1st, not this year, but January 1st, 2024, I started to get very involved with being vegan. I call it vegan. My wife calls it vegan. Anyway, same thing. And eating a ton of fruit, some vegetables, some salads, but for the most part, fruit. And that was like the next step. Not only did I lose more weight, but I found that my health started to increase to the point where, like, I went to my doctor a few months ago. I go every year for an annual physical. And by the way, guys, women are good at this. Guys, I don't care if you live in Australia or wherever you live. We are really bad going to the doctor. Go to the doctor. Get checked up at least once a year.
Yeah.
Once a year, I go and I get everything. The guy checks everything imaginable. And anyway, long story short, I go to the doctor in July and he says, "Why are you here?" I go, "What do you mean?" It's like, "There's nothing wrong with you." I'm like, he goes, "You got some crickety bones," he says, "but besides that," he says, "there's nothing wrong with you." He goes, I got guys 20 years younger sitting in my waiting room. They got high cholesterol. They got this. I said,
Yep.
I said, "Doc,
Because they're eating the sad diet, right?
exactly. Yeah, they're leaving your office and they're stopping at McDonald's or Burger King on the way home and thinking that they're eating breakfast when they're eating cardboard. Okay, they're
Yes.
eating stuff that shouldn't be eating. And once again, it's a little tough love to tell people that. But the reality is, Jack LaLanne, who became one of my idols many years ago because of the physical fitness movement, I learned so much about Jack over the last few years. And, Jack had a great statement. He said, nutrition is king, exercise is queen. You put them together, you build a kingdom.
Yes, that's a
Very
very
logical.
sensible, that's a very sensible concept.
Exactly. Very, very simple. I mean, Jack lived to 90. I think he was 96 when he passed a couple of years back. Wife is still alive, by the way. I just saw her on a
Okay.
podcast. She's almost 100. But
Wow.
here's the real point of what Jack said. And Jay Kordich, who lived to 94, Jay the Juice Man, had a lot to do with marketing of juicers around the world. Jay had a similar statement, right? You got a choice, sickness or health. Right. So you look at these people, you look at, Caldwell Esselstyn, who's 91, Colin Campbell, who's 90. You look at these people that preach this lifestyle
Yep.
and also live it. Well, they have longevity.
They walk the talk. And the thing is, they've put
Right.
health and well-being as their number one pillar in their business and in their life. And that's where everybody else comes unstuck.
Exactly. Exactly. So you do have a choice. I mean, look, some people don't care about their health, and that's unfortunate. But if they're listening to your show, and Kristine, thank you for doing a show like you're doing. Okay, I thank everybody in the health field because people need to hear this message. It's like, look, you can feel better. Once again, it doesn't mean you're going to go run the marathon next month.
Yeah,
You can feel better than you do right this second listening to us.
that's true. And that's why I do these podcasts, because everybody I interview has got something of value to share because they've got lived experience and you've got lived experience. And that's why you are on my show. Now, what I would like to know, there is a question I want to ask you. How do you get your protein if you are vegan?
You know what? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Okay. There's protein molecules in just about everything from a cucumber to an apple to a cantaloupe, be it fruit, be it in the fruit nation or the vegetable nation. Every single thing possesses protein. Protein marketing is marketing, folks. And look, I'm a professional marketing guy. People pay me a lot of money to do marketing for them. And I'm going to tell you, the protein industry, they're really good marketers, okay? And they're telling you a lie. Not that you don't need protein, but there are other protein sources besides animals,
That's
okay?
correct. But
There's
it's the combining of all of the different um, amino acids to make it into a full protein, so it's useful in your body. That's the
Exactly.
trick.
Exactly. And so there's so many sources. And I'll tell you, I measure a lot of things in my life. Okay.
Hmm.
Now I'll be 65 this year. Now with a bench shirt, if you guys are listening and any guys are listening that you power lift or whatever, okay. I at one time had the record in the Wabital Federation, okay, for 55 to 59-year-olds for 451 pounds. Somebody recently broke it, so their name's there. I think they did 457. And so I had that record, okay. And I was a vegetarian when I set that record, okay, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, I was 59 years old. I'm now 64. 5 years later, okay, 5 years later, and 30 pounds lighter than I was when I set that record, okay, with a bench shirt. Now I use a bench shirt for safety for my shoulders now, okay, just because I am 64 years old. So I use a bench shirt, okay, which the lifters will know what I'm talking about. It's just an apparatus to protect your shoulders when you bench press, okay.
Yeah.
I'm still my average Saturday morning workout, okay, where I work out with other power lifters here in Texas, okay. I got a powerlifting shirt on actually. uh, but I'm still well in excess of 400 pounds, okay, that I can bench, okay, at that age. So you say to yourself, well, where's your protein come from? If I wasn't getting any protein,
You
my
couldn't do
body,
that.
yeah, no way
No,
could I do those type of weights, okay.
no.
So have I lost a step as I've gotten older? Yes, okay, but not compared to other guys my age. Other guys my age, they're not doing anywhere near those type of weights. Number one. Number two, their diet is probably much different. And number three, they've got all that comes with it if they still are doing it, the high cholesterol and all of the other health issues. Okay. I don't
That's
want the
right.
health issues. I could really
Mm.
care less about what I bench press. What's important to me is number one, how I feel, and number two, my longevity. From a family perspective, I've got three children, but none have kids yet. I
Yeah.
started late, second marriage. I've been married to my wife a long time, but second marriage for me.
But
So I've
it's not just about longevity, it's about quality of longevity.
exactly. So I want to see my grandkids not only meet them when they're babies, but when they're playing sports in high school or they're in
Mm.
the band or they're doing whatever it is that they so desire. I want to be that grandpa that's still very present with them, and
Yep.
I can only do that if I'm healthy. And
Yep.
so,
For
once
sure.
again, that's one of my motivations to not only wanting to live a long life for a lot of other reasons, but at the end of the day, to know my family, once that they get here, and we're getting close. By the way, my son's about to get married, so we're a year or two away. But
Cool.
but
You're a
but but
step
that's what
closer to
motivates.
being a grandparent.
But and that's a message to everybody listening too. Find that thing that motivates you. If it's a family related thing like that, that you say, "Hey, I want to clean up my diet, not necessarily for me, but for my spouse, or for
Hmm.
my kids, or for my grandkids, because I want to be here, for them." Okay, find that thing that motivates you, because sometimes you're not motivated enough to take care of yourself, but you will be motivated enough to take care of your family.
Well, the thing is, if you think about the concept of being on a plane and the oxygen masks drop down, if you don't put it on you first, how are you going to help anyone else? Now, if you want to be there for your family, your message is perfect, John.
Great point. Yeah, great point. Great point. But you want to be there for them. You want to be there
You
for
do.
your loved ones. Plus I want to see how things turn out. The world's got a little crazy lately, and so I want to see how things turn out in my country. We've got some interesting things happening here in the US and throughout the world. So
Yes, I've been hearing stories about that.
oh yeah. It's
Change.
interesting.
Change is good. Change is good.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's different. It's different. But point being, it's like, you want to be there. You want to be interested. And also, brain health is important. If we can go back to the glutathione for a second, glutathione and brain health is very, very important. Our own company, we've done some studies at the Eleanor Roosevelt Center, which is associated with the University of Denver, with glutathione, and showed some promising things not only with concussions, but a lot of times concussions at a younger age, which I had my share in sports, and a lot of people have. And maybe you fell off a swing set when you were 8 years old, and you say, "Yeah, how come I'm not? Where's my car keys?" Type of thing. That's part of it, but also from those concussions, maybe either sports related or accident related when we were younger, okay, that there is a link towards, the Alzheimer's and dementias as we get older, okay? If you were never concussed, good, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get those things. Well, glutathione is definitely something that helps. Fruits and vegetables, okay, once again, eat an extra apple a day, eat cantaloupe, eat good healthy fruits, okay, because that helps too with brain health. Because the saddest thing to me is to watch people that live a long time, but those last few years of life, they don't know their families, they don't know their friends, maybe they don't even know who they are at different days. That's very, very tragic. So
It is very sad. Yeah.
there's a lot of things, once again, dealing with nutrition. Okay, nutrition and exercise, by the way, what Jack LaLanne said, right? He said that 60 years ago, and he was right then, and he's right today.
Yep.
Those two things, very, very important. I love when I go to the gym early in the morning and I see a lot of senior citizens, okay, which I am one now. It really bothers me, Kristine, to be one, but I'm still working out, with some heavy stuff, but I see
Well,
some
you
of
wait
these.
till you wait till you get to my age.
Well, but when I see people 75, 80, 85 years old and they're in there and they're exercising, it is the best thing they can do for themselves.
Age doesn't mean aches and pains and walking canes.
That's right. I like that. That's good. That's very good. So I would highly encourage that. Once again, fitness at every age. And look, here's the other thing, Kristine, that I find, because I have people say to me all the time, well, you were always an athlete and you liked all these different things. I have a mosquito that wants to join our conversation, by the way. If you see me swatting, he wants to talk to, he wants airtime. But find a thing that you like to do. Okay. Like I see a lot of people now playing what do they call it? Not wiffle ball, waffle,
I know the
waffle,
thing you're going to say. I know,
pickleball, not waffle,
pickleball. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
pickleball, right? Great activity, right? But maybe you don't want to. I don't play pickleball. I have friends that do. Okay, but find something, whether it's walking, whether it's riding the exercise bike at the gym, whether it's walking on the treadmill, whether it's walking in a beautiful park maybe near your home, whether it's something. Okay. If you've been athletic in your life, by the way, there's a lot of sports organizations throughout the world. Okay, there's one called the NSGA. Okay, for example, that is international for senior athletics, right? Maybe you want to compete again. You don't have to win. Don't worry about that. Just participate. Okay.
That's right.
And if you don't want to go to that extreme, you just say, hey, I don't want to do that. But find something that you enjoy doing that you're going to do 4 or 5 times a week, whatever that particular activity is, right? You
I
know,
certainly agree with you on that. When
yeah,
people have something to look forward to, it gives them a reason to live and
exactly.
to get out and about.
Exactly. So, you don't have to necessarily do things competitively. If you want to, go ahead. But if you don't want to, okay, just find something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah,
And
and have
once again,
fun.
yeah, and have fun. Exactly. Have fun with it. And look, a lot of times if you're older and you're retired, you have a little bit more time than the guy who has to go to work every day and put in 40 hours a week and 20 hours in the car commuting somewhere. So you have that time. Take advantage of it. Take full advantage of it.
Certainly. I think you've raised some really, really good points. Even Albert Einstein, all those years ago, said, if you want a happy life, tie it to a goal. And
Exactly.
your goal can be a small one. It could be family related, as you said, John, or it could be just a little bit bigger. And in my case, I just in the last few years got back to a business that I had done many years ago for 20 years and realized I can do it again online. And I've got this new lease of life where I'm helping people with their wellness, which is how this podcast came to be, because I still have a good message and I want that to share that with the world and just like you. And so we have a common goal to share to these people.
Well, and thank you for doing that because sometimes those of us that are into our health, we take that we're into our health for granted and we think everybody else is, and they need to hear that constant messaging that
Yeah,
hey, I'm not.
it's like when you sell a product. People need to hear that. Otherwise, something else will grab their attention. You have to keep bombarding them with that message. And it's the same with wellness because it just goes out of people just get sidetracked and they get on a roll or they get busy and they just get sucked along on this fast train and they're not thinking about themselves.
Exactly, exactly. And we have choices in life.
Yeah.
And when I looked, for example, I go back to that documentary. I probably watch that documentary, Forks Over Knives, probably 2, 3 times a year now. And I've probably seen it 30 times. And I'll never forget Dr. Esselstyn talking about the correlation of what happened in World War II when the Nazis went into Norway. And they basically told the Norwegian farmers, hey, we're going to take the pigs, the chickens, the turkeys. We're going to consume them. You're going to continue to, to raise them, but we're consuming them. You can have the root vegetables to feed your family. And he holds up this bell curve showing that the heart disease and cancer rates in about 1939 in Norway were about the same as they were here in the United States at that time.
Okay.
By 1944, by the time that everything happens and the Allies show up and get the Germans to go home, uh, all of a sudden that bell curve's way down here. The Norwegian people have very low incidences of heart disease and cancer. Why?
I didn't know that. That's an interesting
Yeah,
fact.
they're subsisting on what? On root vegetables, which are what? Beets, potatoes, carrots, leeks, basically a poor man's diet, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of years later, they go back, they do the test. Now all of a sudden, the Germans are gone. They're back to eating the chickens and the turkeys and the birds and everything else, and they're
And
back
what's
to
happened? What's
yeah,
happened? It's
same
gone up.
level as same level as the good old United States of America.
Yeah. People eat
And
way
by the
too
way,
much meat today.
that's before fast food. So once again, I personally don't eat meat, and I'm not telling everybody that listens that you got to go vegetarian or whatever. But there's our side notes. Here's my side notes. Okay, if you study, because I did this for health. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I did this for my health way back. But when I found out some of the social impact of water supply, for example, to produce a little bit of beef,
Mm.
and I said, wow, we're actually taking the water supply from some very poor people in the world as a result of our need for beef. Okay. And we don't think about that here in the United States because, we got plenty of water and everything else, but the water supply is a big issue. Okay. And then, of course, the cruelty to the animals. I'm a dog and cat lover. If you hear barking, I have 4 dogs and 4 cats. And I'm limited to 4 where we live. Unfortunately, my wife and I would probably have 50 if we could. We love animals. But if you love animals, don't eat their cousins. And, if you love your dog and cat, don't like don't go eating their friends, okay? But you do what you want to do, folks. But at the end of the day, you do have a choice: sickness or health. What do you want
Oh,
it to be? How long you want to be here for? And better yet, more importantly, and you said it earlier, Kristine, how do you want to feel while you're here? You want to be sick or you want to enjoy it? Dr. Wolf Droge, who I worked with from Germany, that I referenced earlier, the day he died. He cross country. He was German. He lived over in Germany most of the time. He cross country skied in the morning. He played tennis in the afternoon. And that evening, he said to his wife, "I'm going to take a nap." It was New Year's Eve. He passed away, and he went. He took a nap, and I think, you know what? What a great way to go. He did two
good.
things that he
He
loved to
was
do.
doing, yeah, that's right. He was doing what he loved.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he passed away. He was up in years. But I look at that and I go, you know what? Isn't that the best? He did two things he absolutely enjoyed doing with his friends and his family.
Yeah.
And that's how he passed away. He didn't pass away with 19, tubes in his nose and his head and not knowing where he was. Okay. And that's the way to go. Okay. I mean, not that we have much choice in it, but at the end of the day, if it happens that way to me,
Well,
I'll feel fine.
every choice you make today affects what's going to happen in the future. See, this is
Exactly.
where people don't realize. They think, I'm well, I feel okay, I don't have to do anything. But chronic disease takes 20 or 30 years to manifest. It doesn't happen overnight. You might feel the symptoms. They didn't just come on overnight or in the last week or so. They've been manifesting for 20 or 30 years. And so every decision you made over that time has affected how that's going to play out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And today they have such great diagnostics of things that they can look at your body and look at your future,
There,
and
there are biomarkers that you can have tested now that will tell you what your risk of chronic disease is. Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
And then once again, and then and then look, here's the thing, you can take all the diagnostics that you want, but if you don't make some of those changes, doesn't matter what the test says. You got to be willing to make the changes. And I got to tell you, you're talking to a guy here that, if you met me like 9 years ago, I mean, I would finish lifting weights and I would go to an all you could eat barbecue buffet. Okay, with my
Yeah.
friends. By the way, I'm not the only strong guy in Texas that's gone vegan. By the way, there's three others that I train with on Saturday mornings that are very strong men, and they're all have adopted this lifestyle. So I'm not saying you have to do it, but I'll tell you what, don't buy into this whole thing that you're going to be, blow away in the wind. Okay. I mean, I'm still 242 pounds. Okay. I'm not 150. Okay. You can still have some strength and some tone to your muscularity. I mean, there's
Yeah.
all sorts of athletes doing this type of thing, but once again, most people aren't an athlete. Okay, just be a normal person, but do the things health wise that are going to help you with your longevity, because there's so much good information out there now, good podcasts like yours. Okay, so much good information out there. Just put it in Google. Hey, I'm interested in this or that. You'll read all kinds of stuff and studies to support it.
Well, if you want to be good at anything, what do? You learn about it. You
Exactly.
practice it. You implement it in your life, and that's you make the changes. But you've got to study it and understand what it is you've got to change. People need to know and learn from people like you, John, and other people that I have on my podcast, and people that do posts and blogs and all sorts of things. You can learn from them, people who have lived experience,
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
like you, John.
And nobody arrives super healthy on this planet for the most part. For the most part, when you meet healthy people and you get around them, you get around the community. And by the way, that's one thing. And I'm a big fan of Dan Buettner and the Blue Zones. I anytime Dan writes a new book, I buy it or watch his stuff. And if you're not familiar with that, it's called the Blue Zones. It was sponsored by National Geographic. A guy named Dan Buettner has done all this stuff all over the world. But one of the things that they find is community. Find a community of people who are healthy. If your lifestyle is one where you're finishing work at 5 o'clock and you're going to the bar and you want to
Mhm.
be healthy, probably not going to happen.
No,
You're,
probably not.
right, because the other guys at the bar, they're not there to be healthy. They're there to drink and to eat and watch the ball game and do whatever. Okay. And I'm not saying you could never take, one night here and there and do that and have some fun with your buddies. Of course you can. But at the end of the day, that can't be a lifestyle. You got to change that lifestyle, okay, to the
Yep.
point where you say, hey, you know what? Instead of going to the bar, I'm going to go to the salad bar. Or instead of the salad bar, I'm going to go to the food store and I'm going to get some good healthy produce to eat. Okay. And
Yes.
instead of doing something negative, I'm going to go home and I'm going to take my spouse for a walk and enjoy the evening. Or I'm going to take my dog for a walk. Or maybe I don't have a dog or a spouse. I'm going to go to the gym. Like, find that alternative thing that you do, and then let that start to become the habit. Okay, instead of the habit of saying, well, everybody's going to the tavern or the bar or whatever. That's not going to get you where you want to be, and there's a million other reasons not to do that besides health, all kinds of risk and car accidents and tickets and legal affairs. You don't want to do all that. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
make
true.
the changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, make the changes, and you can do it, folks. You can look. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Believe me.
Yeah. So, what is your routine? You get up early or you go to bed early, or what kind
Yeah.
of
Well, it's
routine do you
funny
have?
because I'm a entrepreneur for 40, it's going on 43 years, and I've worked for myself. Always been an early riser. Most days I'm awake about 4:30 in the
Mm,
morning. And I'll do my breakfast routine, which is basically I take my glutathione supplement. Um, I have a tea that's made of shilajit that I take also. Okay, little tea that I take, and then I'll normally have whatever fruit that I'm going to eat that day, watermelon, cantaloupe, whatever it is. I'll have that, and then I normally come in my office here and I'll do about a half hour just general structure of the day. Okay, like okay, I normally have it the night before, but I'll just make sure it's like, okay, did anybody text me overnight or email me? I deal in Asia and I deal in Europe as well as North America. So, those
Mm,
people are up already. So I might have a text or something, or
yeah.
somebody needs me to call them. And then I head off to the gym. I'm normally at the gym about 5:30, sometimes 6 in the morning. I'll do at least 45 minutes to an hour combination of cardio and weights. Okay. And then I come back here and I start my business day. I go all day, and then sometimes I'll do a second workout. I joined a thing called Hot Works, which is a combination of like yoga, Pilates, all that sort of stuff that they
Mm,
do in 130-degree saunas. Believe it or not, it's a little crazy,
yeah.
but it feels really good. Infrared saunas. So I do that normally, 3 to 4 times a week. I got my wife doing it now also, which is good. It's good for her. She wasn't crazy about it at first with the saunas, but she's found that there's a benefit.
I
Makes you
love
drink a
saunas.
by the
I
way,
think they're
makes you
great.
drink a lot. You drink a lot more water, by the way, when you do that.
Yeah.
And but normally I'm in bed by 9 o'clock. Early to
Mm,
bed, unless I have some pressing business matter. I'm not a big TV guy. I'm not going to sit for hours and watch TV. I mean, I'll watch the occasional program. We are actually watching Brokenwood, which comes from New Zealand, believe it or not. I don't know if you guys know that
okay.
program or not. But it's been out for like 11 years. But anyway, we found it. And it's good actor, good writing. So we watched that. That's about an hour show. But that's it. I don't watch the news. It's negative for the most part.
Yep.
I want to know what's going on in the world, certainly, but I'm not going to sit there and watch, the three versions of news that we have in America. But like I said, by 9:30 at the very latest, I'm in bed. You need your rest. Rest is
Yep.
so important. Good sleep is so important because that's really where the mitochondria heals. It's where the immune system heals. It's important for your brain to get rest. So yeah, I mean 9:30, like I said, and so I normally get 7 hours, sometimes 8 hours of sleep. And I do cold water therapy also. That's something else that I incorporated a few years back during COVID. Um, I, I
Hmm.
I actually fell in my pool during a cold spell. I actually literally I was on the phone and I felt this is embarrassing. I was walking around my pool and and somehow I tripped. I fell in the pool. And it was middle of
Phone and
winter.
all.
Yeah, it was middle of winter, right? And the whole thing. I had the phone I'm holding up, and I'm still talking to this guy, and he's laughing. He goes, "What happened?" I said, I got fell in the pool." And we laugh about it. But I got out thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna get sick. It's the middle of winter. It's freezing cold." I got out. I felt really good. And then kind of the same thing happened with the documentary that I saw on food. A couple of weeks later, I find this TV show and this guy Wim Hof is on there. And Wim Hof is talking about studies and all that in the cold. So I became a cold water guy at that point. Not for everybody, by the way. If you got a heart problem, whatever, it's not for you. But I found that works great. I love cold water therapy and I love saunas. I love that that contrast of heat and cold. There's benefits to the body certainly and the mind of both
For sure.
things. That's
Yep.
something else I do every day religiously. I get
Mm.
my 3 minutes minimum a day. It's 3 minutes. You can go more, but I do 3 minutes. This time of year, it's cold in Texas, so I can use my pool. During the warm weather, I actually have a refrigerator, like they call them a hunter's freezer. They're about 4 foot high. I have that during it's very warm here, about 6 months a year. So I use that during the warm weather. And then once the weather gets cold, like it is now I can just, go in the pool, which is easier. My pool guy thinks I'm crazy. People don't go in their pool in November in Texas, but I do. Uh, I don't miss a day with it. I'm very religious about, my health habits. And they're working for me. I mean, like I said, I'm, be 65 this year and going strong and multiple business ventures and busy doing all sorts of different things all over the world. And
Well, you look very well for a 64-year-old, I can say.
thank you,
And you've got
not
energy. You've got lots of energy.
yep, not planning on slowing down anytime soon. Life, anything can happen, but I think if you prepare, there's no reason not to. And once again, I look, success leaves clues. I look at some of my mentors in health that lived into their 90s productively, and some even older, by the way. But the a lot of the doctors, for some reason, they seem to pass on in their mid 90s, but they're healthy to the end. That's the
Yeah.
real thing. That's the real secret. They're healthy, and then something happens. Maybe something else happens. They break a hip or something, and it causes other things to happen. But there's no guarantees. But I'm going to live every single day as if there's not going to be a promise of the next one, right? The Bible says there's no
Yeah.
promise of another day. So I'm going to enjoy every single day to the utmost and I'm going to squeeze everything out of it that I can every single day. And then when I'm tired, like I said, 9:30 bed, and do it again the next day.
Awesome. Well, there's some great points in there for people to take away, but I have one more question that I would like to ask you, John.
Yep.
Uh, do you do any works that are bigger than you, bigger than you kind of projects?
Yes. That's a great question. Yeah. I'm involved. Well, I'm involved with a few different marketing ventures that are startups
Hmm.
that people brought me in recently and said, "Hey, we're just starting. Can you use some of your experience with copywriting, for example?" So I'm copywriting, and the thing about copywriting is you have to test it because you
Right.
don't. You might think you wrote this terrific sales letter. Well, and then the market goes, not so good. Nobody buys. So then you
Yeah.
have to adjust it. So I'm constantly involved with things like that, with other people's businesses. They own the businesses. I don't necessarily own the businesses, but they'll bring me in as a consultant, pay me a few dollars and say, "Hey, can you put together that marketing strategy?" And when I
Hmm.
do it right, it works well. One example with the glutathione, I did that 29 years ago. I still get paid every single month for what I did 29 years ago. That's a success story. But I got my
Yes.
failure stories too. And not everything quite works out that way. But yeah, so I have some things that are bigger, certainly bigger than I am that I'm doing. And then the other thing that's big is I do coach people. Okay. Not for profit. I'll never take a dime off of anybody non-business. Okay. I coach young people. I've got a
Awesome.
handful of young entrepreneurial people that I'm coaching. Some of them are underprivileged. Some of them are young people where they just, they weren't given the best hand.
Yeah.
But they instead of being a victim, they've said, "Hey, can you help me?" And so I give them my time, and boy, some of them are just doing some. There's one young man down in Houston. I'm so proud of this kid. He just, yeah, he wasn't given a bad hand, but he wasn't given a great hand. Okay, in life, parents were divorced at a young age, broken home, the whole thing, and man, he is just. He's about to enter Rice University for his MBA. He's doing stuff in the construction field that he studied. Has been a straight A student. Worked the whole time he's in college. Competed in sports while he was in college. Like did everything.
That's fantastic.
Now, and he said to me, he said, "What's the rules?" And I told him when he was going to college, the day he graduated high school, I had breakfast with him right here in Dallas, and I said, "Here's the rules. You can go to college one of a couple ways. You can go and you can be a party boy and have a good time. Okay, you can go, you can chase girls, you can drink beer, you can do all those type of things. Most of those guys don't do well. They might have a
Yep.
fun college experience, but they don't do well. They're not setting themselves up for success. You could
No,
go the second way, which is that you could crack the books, number one. Okay, that's what you're there for, is to get an education. You can crack the books. You can play your sport, happen to be a hockey player. You can do your sport, okay, but you're not going to do that for a living. Remember, the second you start getting hurt, you probably need to back it off, okay, because if you're hurting the head, especially, which he did by his fourth year, he decided to stop. And then the third, and you can do all of that, okay, and get a great education, set yourself up to eventually get a master's in business, okay, and to do some things in your life that are going to be unique. He's 23. just got married and just doing great. Or the third choice in college, okay, is you can do it fast. You can go successively semesters. You can go at Christmas break and you can go during summer break and you can get it done fast. So you can go, you can do the other things you want to do entrepreneurially. Okay. And I've had some young people that have done that, but that was my advice to him. And he just, he did it. My own son took a little different path. My own son didn't listen to me on the first part. He went to
Yep.
college and had a good time for the first year, came home with some grades he shouldn't have. And I said, well, then you got a couple choices. You can join the United States Marine Corps or you can get a full-time job, but you better decide what you want to do. Well, he went out and he worked for a year and he came back and he said, Dad, I need to get an education. I want to be an engineer. Okay.
There we go.
So we need to make some adjustments. So sometimes, by the way, sometimes the kid down the street listens to you, right? And what's that old thing in the Bible about the prophets never profit in their own town? Dad can know all this
Yes.
stuff. Another kid listens and applies it, and your own kid sits there and rolls their eyes. But my
Well,
son, my son got it together. But my point is, yeah, and to
yeah.
me, those are the big projects because those people they're the future. You know what I mean? At our age, Kristine, it's like they're the next generation. They're the people we
Hmm.
need to leave with the good health habits too, by the way. Because I
That's
preach to
right.
all people, hey, you can't be sitting at the bar till 2 o'clock in the morning with your buddies watching a ball game. You got
No,
to get
that's
your
right.
whether you're a student, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you have a job, you need your rest so that you can function properly. You can't do that being a party boy or a party girl for that matter.
That's true. You cannot. So you can apply yourself like your protege, but children quite often don't listen to their parents. But that's their job. And some people have to learn by other people's mistakes, and some people have to learn by their own mistakes. Yeah. So as long as they work it out in the end, that's the important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, nobody gets it perfect, that's for sure.
No, no, that's right. Well,
A
it's been
great
a real pleasure interviewing you today, John. Thank you very much for being on my show. Do you want to leave a final word for our audience?
sure. Yeah, I tell people all the time that advice that I got 40 plus years ago, right? That for things to change, you need to change. And for things to get better, you need to get better. Okay. There's so many ways today to learn something different, something new, or even something old that you go back to apply all of this new information and knowledge to. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of AI, for example. Okay. I didn't even talk about AI today, but I use AI in my business every single day.
Same.
Most people my age are scared of it. They're scared of it. Don't be scared of technology. Technology is there to help us. It's not there to
That's right.
replace us. It's there to help us, right?
Yes.
So don't be afraid of it, okay? And just don't be afraid of the future. The future is going to be what we all make of it, okay? At the end of the day,
We,
if we have the right attitude, if we have the right health situation, if we have the right philosophies, okay, whatever happens, okay, in politics or whatever, I'm not going to say that it doesn't matter. It's a factor, but don't let it define who we are as humanity. Humanity can do some wonderful things when we work together, love each other, and tell each other the truth about things.
perfect message. I love that. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have a wonderful day.
You
Thank you,
too.
viewers, for tuning in. Hope you got something awesome from that. And I'll see you in the next interview. See you, John. Thank you.
Well, I'll see you tomorrow at 4:30 my time.
Ah, yes.
I'm doing you tomorrow. Anything specific that you want to talk about?
I'll just finish this one.
Okay.